So you know the deal, right? 20-second delay.
Nice.
All right, so let's see how it sounds. I thought it was a 20-second delay. All right. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is the Angry Prepper, and this is City Prepping. I know a lot of you know who he is. He's got like 1 million subscribers. All right, not 1 million, but he's getting there.
I'm getting there. I'm getting
Getting there.
there.
Um, and it's again, I he was one of the first established channels I followed when I got on the YouTube and I was looking for other preppers. Him, Urban Prepper, Canadian Prepper are guys that I followed in the beginning, just because there weren't many of us. Now there's like 6 million of us, so it gets lost in the mix. All right, guys. James, thank you for that. So my sound, how do we look and how do we sound? Uh, all right, so we sound good. All right, so listen, we're not going to baby this interview like I've done in the past. We're going to jump right into it and start out with the first question, and that is, what is your opinion on the Nashville event that happened a couple days ago?
Yeah, we're just jumping right in, aren't we?
Yeah, fuck it, why not?
Let's just do it. No, it's interesting. Before we came on, and first of all, let me say thank you for bringing me on. You said a second ago I was one of the first channels, and ironically, you were on the first season of Doomsday Prepper, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
sounds like regret in your voice. No, when I first got what honestly got me into prepping was that show. I mean, I've done a degree of prepping for years, and have a background in survivalism, but I didn't know there was a name to this, and I just assumed it was those that wanted to be prepared, but I didn't know there was a whole culture behind it, and so. Yeah, it's kind of an honor for me to get to meet one of the first people that I think introduced me to the concept of prepping. And seeing you on the show, I was like, wow, this is a very fascinating, and it piqued my interest. And I'm not joking. When as soon as I saw you and other people that first season, the first thing I did was, well, let me go to YouTube and see who's out there and see what information's out there. And I was surprised some of the stuff I found, but like you, I came across the Urban Prepper, I came across Canadian Prepper, and I was like, okay, I saw a lot of stuff that I was like, I don't really connect with, but when I found their channels, I was like, oh, okay, it was very level headed and made sense. So yeah, it's I guess we both kind of were able to help each other out on our journey at the beginning. So
Definitely.
that's kind of cool. Um, but oh, by the way, thanks, Bill. I guess I know you got some super chats coming in there. I don't want to, I know
Bill,
you want.
thank you for that super chat. We appreciate it. Thank you.
So to your question, what happened there? I mean, again, I'm watching this pretty closely. I got an email about 5 minutes before I came on from a family member that was had some theories on it, and I'm watching it. My view when these things first typically happen is I wait and see, and I just kind of wait for the dust to settle, so to speak. I know what we're being told at the moment is, they supposedly found a body that, and they start tracing backwards and finding out who this individual is, what the connection is between being in front of AT&T. That's going to be, was this somebody that was afraid of, 5G technology that wanted to take a hit on it? It doesn't seem to be, again, from what we're being told at least, that he was out to harm people. Obviously, he warned people away. So I think there was some kind of a, I don't know if he had an agenda or what, but for me, I tend to, on my channel, if you watch it, I usually don't bring these talking points up because I like to wait and see what happens. And it's something I think give it a week or two, I'm going to be very interested to see what we find out. But yeah, do you have a different take?
Carmen, thank you for the donation. We appreciate it. My take is, it's, as of right now, it's just a lone dude that was trying to make a statement. I mean, he did it on Christmas morning.
Right.
I don't see anything other than that. Obviously, they're gonna find his what is that? Not a dossier. What the hell is that called? Um, his mission statement or whatever it is. They're gonna
Right.
find that eventually, and then a little more will come out. And if he doesn't have one, then this guy was a kook. I mean, where he put it, and we don't know. I don't know what his agenda was, and I don't like to go down the rabbit hole, if you will, right?
Yeah.
The conspiracy theory rabbit hole, which is endless. So I stay away from that. Though, on certain videos, I do talk about it, but I try to stay away from it for the most part because it doesn't do anybody any good. It really
Well,
does.
I'm glad you said that because I was like, oh, where's he going to go with this? Because I was like, I know people are going to spin it 100 different ways and people are going to look into it the way they want to look into it. Again, that's why I kind of prefaced what I said by just saying, let's see what comes out, what, the dust settles, see if there's a manifesto behind all this that,
Right.
he left behind. And, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up the conversation about conspiracy theories because I grew up, and in the '90s, I remember when Louis Farrakhan started making a splash on the scene, and they were interviewing him, and he would be saying these things that I was like, on the surface, I was like, does anybody really believe that? Like, well, if you trace the amount of links in a chain, that slaves had on a ship, it's the same distance and feet of the Washington Memorial, and all these things that he started kind of like we've got the inside information.
Right.
And I remember listening to that and I was like, does anybody really believe that? But here we are in 2020 and there's a phenomenon that's happening in our country where people I think are looking into things and they want to know really what's going on because let's be honest, America's done a lot of things that have really caused people to mistrust our government. Um, I mean, I don't have to prove that to anybody, but it's hard because again, I want to balance my channel, and I think you do a great job as well of like, okay, maybe sometimes not everything is what we see on the surface, but
Right.
it can be a dangerous trapping to go down a path sometimes, and I try to avoid it.
Well, and that was my other thing, right? So now you start talking about conspiracy theories, and it's funny when I discount a lot of the theories. Some people will be like, "Well, you know what? You're stupid." I'm like, "All right, whatever. I'm stupid, right?" But I'm trying to be responsible, being that we do what we do on YouTube, and people do look at our information, and not that they make it a point, but they want to see what we have to say and what we think,
Yeah.
and I think we have to be more responsible than the media is, because the media is absolutely irresponsible.
Well, thank you for saying that because again, it really, yeah, I really appreciate your honesty and candor on that because I understand how this works. So we're on YouTube. If you want eyeballs on your videos, you got to throw a salacious title out there. You got to hook them in, right?
Right.
And the media knows that very well, and they'll take information and twist it and tweak it, and they'll pander, right? I mean, they'll say, well, we know what our audience wants to hear, and they'll tweak that information. And to your point, we do have a responsibility. I'm not going to get on here on my channel and say anything that could cause damage or harm or lead people down that path. And I just don't want to be that person because I know if I said certain things, I could get the views and the subscribers up, but I refuse to do it. And it's funny because on my channel, I never cuss. And the reason I don't cuss on my channel is because my dad watches all my videos and he's a deeply religious individual. And
Okay.
I would get in so much trouble. But, but one of the things that he told me was he said, son, just make sure whatever you do, you stay honest to yourself. Don't sell out just for the money. And he's like, the minute you go down that path, it's going to be a very dangerous thing to do. Always stay true to your beliefs. And I've tried to take that approach.
And you know what? It's funny. There was a few YouTubers that I guess I sort of follow. And I wouldn't say follow, but I would see them on YouTube, and you could see the fraud in them
Yeah.
after watching them for a while, right? And I think being honest to yourself is coming straight out and being who you are out of the gates, right?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people. I mean, and these are YouTubers. When I'm talking about YouTube, I'm talking about like photographers, like photographer channels. I follow. Some of them I still follow, and you could see just the fakeness in it, and they're not real to themselves. But when you watch them long enough, you start seeing that realness come out, and then some people are taken back by it. They're like, "Whoa, that's not how he was, a couple years ago," and that's why I'm a big fan of being as honest as possible, because people can always find out shit about you here on YouTube.
Sure.
The longer you
Yeah.
talk, the longer you do yourself in. I mean, that's why
Yeah.
I curse, because in the beginning, when I first started my channel, I tried not to curse, and I did very little of it. Then when I was like, you know what, fuck this, man, freedom of speech, and it gets all the sensitive people off my
Oh, yeah.
channel, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can't handle cursing, guess what? You're not going to be able to handle whatever happens next.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't mind cursing. I have my fair share of cursing at home, but it's I'm always nervous on my channel. I'm like, I'll get an earful when I call home.
Yes. Well, that's. I mean, my mother watches from time to time, and she'll be like, calm down, but and I'll say yes, and then I'll do it again, like every other kid, you know. Virginia Prepper, thank you for the donation. We appreciate it. Um, but listen, I get a lot of why people don't curse. It's there's not that there's an allure to it. It's you can communicate better, but I think my cursing just lends to who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I mean. I curse every second of the day, and I try my best not to do it around the kids, but that went out the window now that they're older. It went out of the window. So
Well, you're a New Yorker guy. I mean, that's just part of your culture there. So,
yeah. I mean, I guess I don't want to have that be the excuse. I just tell people,
yeah, I'm
you
just
know,
kidding.
I
Yeah.
am that jerk that I am. So now, um, what you know what? Before we get into the more about you, I'm curious more on your opinion on certain things. Now, I just watched one of your videos driving back here, uh, the food crisis.
Mhm.
How bad do you think that's going to get next year?
I mean, again, we live in a nation. Have you traveled outside the United States much?
Just like Tahiti and the touristy
Resorts.
places, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. No, I used to do a lot of work. I did NGO work back when I was younger. When I was younger, I was a missionary, and I used to travel to other nations, and I'd help, with team of physicians. And I've seen the despair and the hunger around the world. And when you come back to America, it's mind blowing. I used to go down to Mexico, deep, in certain parts, and used to do work down there, humanitarian aid work. And that was back when I was an occupational minister, and went to Afghanistan, and other places. And so you would never think this would happen here. But here we are. And again, what you're seeing is a polarity in our nation. You're seeing extremes happening. You're seeing the richer are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. You saw this year when when March hit, when the pandemic began, you saw the wealth of the ultra rich has gone up. I believe statistically they said half, about 50%, close to $1 trillion,
Really?
their collective wealth, because for them everything went on sale, right?
Right.
They saw it and they jumped in. I don't blame them. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're starting to see these extremes happening, and minimum wage, these other things haven't been really tracking with the cost of living. So I know when I bring these things up, people get really mad. They're like, oh, are you some communist socialist? And I'm like, no. I mean, I'm a capitalist through and through. But you can get into a system where capitalism begins to leave certain people behind, and I think that's what we're starting to see. And I've been fortunate, that I haven't seen that in our own family or in our immediate, friends or anything like that. But I know, listening to my community, people are starting to hurt. And Amber, you've interviewed her, the Princess Prepper. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where she's really done an amazing job, I think, finding a niche for her channel to serve that community, because she's grown up under some tough times. So to your question, I laid out that framework because, again, I think we're going to see, again, I think before I came on, Trump, I believe, just finally signed the bill to move it forward. I have to go back and check.
I was going to ask you that.
So the stimulus, because, so I just don't know. I don't know I didn't look at the exact what he signed. I don't know if it's still just 600 per person, but I think a lot of people are going to be hurting here pretty soon. And so, you know, that's where I feel like I'm going to have to give time and attention on my channels to speak to those issues. So that I think we'll see it. Yeah, for sure.
Well, that I was going to ask you that. Gary, thank you for the donation. I was going to ask you that because he just signed the bill that he vetoed. I don't know, a week ago, a couple days ago, not a week ago, a couple days ago, and I wonder if he was feeling pressured because people also millions of people also came off of unemployment. So I wonder if that was his reason for signing such a shitty $600, you know,
Yeah, a lot of people they lost their unemployment benefits
right.
once that expired. And that was what God, I feel so bad for those people. I mean, apart from the 600, people are going to lose benefits.
Well, the six
Um,
hundred does nothing, right?
no, no.
So I mean, I think next year we're going to see more or more hurting, if you will. I hate to say it that way, but more hurting because when I saw that he signed the 600, I'm like, wait a minute. Just yesterday he was talking about $2,000 and they're gonna sign this and we're gonna make it happen. And then he went and just signed a $600. Like, and I mean, listen, you could. There's a listen. If for preppers, $600 is good money. You could do some damage for $600.
Yeah.
But you got to know exactly where to spend it
Sure.
so that you maximize that amount of money.
Yeah. I've had
But
people email me, ask me, hey, I just got this amount of money. What do I do? What do I do? And what backpack do I get, or what gear do I get, or knife? My advice is always the same. Don't worry about the fringe things. Start with the food, your water. If you got that on lockdown, if you got a good supply going, yeah, if you want to build off from there, but always start with the basics. And that's going to be important this coming year.
yeah, big time. And yeah, when people ask me about like gear like that, I'm like, worry about food.
Yep.
Do yourself, because you cannot eat a bug out bag. You can eat what's inside it, but you can't eat the bug out bag itself.
Yeah.
All right. So, question. The next one. What is
Yeah.
your opinion on? Let me go easy, and then I'm gonna go hard. So, what is your opinion on the whole coronavirus fiasco?
So what aspect of it are we talking economical, biological, origin? I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could look at that. I
There
know
is.
the community where a lot of people stand.
So let's start with people's
I mean,
freedoms and restrictions.
yeah. So, this is kind of it's a really sensitive subject, and I get that. Here's my view, and this is my take, and I, it's, geez, this is a hard one to answer because look, again, my background, I've shared this before, and I might have mentioned it, or you might have seen it in a video, but my degree was in microbiology. I studied at the University of Texas. I was going to go to medical school. I did the MCAT. I applied to medical school. I was set up for interviews, and I decided at the last minute to back out. I was kind of staring the barrel down the gun, down the barrel of the gun, right? And I was like, this is a big commitment. I just backed out.
Right.
And one of the things that we studied in microbiology is, human infectious diseases and all these things. And we knew back then that the big one was coming. It was just a matter of time. The medicines that were being produced, the gap between, what it could stop and what it could do was slowly tightening. And we knew over time that gap was going to close.
Right.
So when things hit, and at the beginning of this year with the pandemic, was I surprised? No, I was not. I expected this 10 years ago. And so when it hit, of course, the way it played out, I mean, I don't care who was a president. It was gonna be a bad situation all the way around. So, so to the point about your question about restrictions, freedom. Here's my view: is I live in Southern California, and if you've been watching the news, our ERs or our ICU beds are now at 0% capacity. They're now putting people in the gift shop and gurneys. There's no room.
Right.
So the hospital down the street, they got a big tent popped. They've added in there. Several friends of mine, I had spent some time with a friend of mine. He works in the medical communities right down the street from the hospitals, and they are fatigued. They're burnt out and they're hurting. Now, I know when I bring that up, people are like, well, I have a friend that's a physician and she's off work. Yes, I mean, some of the people that are in general practice and other things, they're not in operating anymore. They're now closing the ORs down. They're not doing operations, scheduled operations, elective surgeries, all these things, because everything is now, the energy is being tied, to this.
Right.
So, and I say all this because whenever I answer questions, I try to lay a framework at my explanation. My view is this: is that if your view is like, hey, don't wear a mask, I want my freedoms, this and that, yeah, it's going to have an impact on someone else because I choose to wear a mask, and it's not out of fear. It's just I understand the basic principles, and so it's turned into a political item, right? I mean,
Right.
if you wear one, you're weak. If you don't, you're bucking. So I have no idea how everything's turning into a political issue in our country. It's again, it's just a simple concept to me, and that's how I look at it. That's my take. So to your question, when I hear people talk about freedoms, I'm like, I get it. That's core. That's who we are as Americans. We don't want anybody to tell us what to do, right? I get that. But I do realize on the flip side, my decisions could potentially impact someone else. I had several friends that they decided to get together with their families for Thanksgiving. Had two friends, they both lost their fathers a week ago due to COVID, almost same time, because again, they got together for Thanksgiving. No one wore masks, and both of their fathers died with COVID. And I'm sorry, it's for the first time I'm starting to see close friends lose family members. due to this. So I guess I just don't look at it from a political perspective, again, because my background was in science and biology. I just
Right.
look at it as, well, if we do X, you're going to get Y. So make your decision accordingly.
Right.
Am I mad at people? Not really, but I live, I mean, when it first hit New York, you saw what it was like there. I
Yeah.
mean, it was pretty brutal. So I hate getting into arguments with people. I just don't do it anymore. Kind of leave it up to them. I know in Germany, one politician has advocated that if you deny getting a vaccine, if you decide that you're not going to take it, then if you do catch COVID, you're not allowed into the hospitals. And I was like, wow, that's it was interesting. I was like, that's an interesting take. I mean, you know, are people going to be responsible for their decisions? That's kind of what he's advocating.
Right.
So,
I did see a politician, not a politician, sorry, it was a doctor, and he pretty much said those who don't take the vaccine, for example, they're going to have to suffer the consequences of not being able to do, you know, fun shit, go to the
yeah.
theaters, go see a family, travel, things like that. So when I saw that, like me, listen, in New York, one of my partners passed away from it. Another
Oh,
guy
wow.
in EMS that I knew passed away from COVID, and I noticed that there is a trend of people who are passing away. That's without a doubt. Um, Me personally, I wear a mask when I have to, and if I don't, I don't. But I do know that COVID is real. I know a lot of people keep saying that COVID's not real, and that is a little frustrating. But nonetheless, um, my next question to you, because you mentioned it, do you really think this is the big one? This is the big uh, pandemic? Because
I already know where you're going with this, yeah.
I'm looking at COVID, and I'm like, it's bad, but I don't think we've seen anything yet.
Are you? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you're going a different direction. Do you think
No, it
it's going to
wasn't.
get worse? Yeah, I was like, oh no, don't make me ask this question or to answer that one question. So are you asking? Do I think it's going to get worse, or
Do you think there's another virus out there that's going to screw us over? Because, like I said,
oh,
as of right now, I don't think this is the one. I,
well, I mean, again, you've probably seen the news the same as I am. They're starting to see mutations, I think, in France. What that's going to look like, God help us if it's something that it mutates and whatever vaccines they roll out can't stop it.
right,
And again, that's assuming people are going to even take the vaccine. I asked my community, I did a poll, what their thoughts were on the vaccine, and 50% said they wouldn't take it. So that being the case, the numbers, unless a certain percentage take it, it's not going to be effective. And again, I'm not,
70%.
yeah, I'm not bringing this up to, boohoo vaccines or this and that. I'm trying to take this discussion and try to be as neutral as I can. I'm just, again, looking at numbers. I love numbers, and I love looking at numbers. So having said that, could it be worse? Can it be worse? Will it be worse? And here's the problem: is that, again, if it mutates, number one, yeah, we've got a real problem on our hand. And number two, if something comes behind it, and that is a possibility. You look at the mortality rate of something like Ebola. I mean, it's a pretty high mortality rate. I believe past 20%. If you
Right,
catch it, that's it. You're done.
right,
So this one, fortunately, relatively in comparison, is low. Um, but again, there's so much we don't know about it. Long-term impacts. I have a client. I own another company, and her husband has. He's a long hauler, and I'm getting a lot of emails from people in my community that are long haulers. They've contracted it, and now they have unknown symptoms that will be with them, and who knows how long. So my fear is what we don't know. And I hate to use the word fear because people kind of jump on that and latch on it as, oh, you're afraid and you live in fear. For me, I don't, but I do realize that we need to be cautious going into this. And I don't know if something could come behind it. And again, to the point of our beginning of our conversation, I've studied this long enough to know that there is a possibility.
oh, very good. Thank you for that.
I'm sorry. I hope I don't ramble here, but it's I just know giving simple answers to this community, people, they want more information. When I talk to my people in my community, I try to just lay it all out there and let them make,
Right.
you know,
That's the and thank you for that, because again, sometimes you interview people and it's like a yes or no question. You're like, give me a break, like just
well,
fucking elaborate a little bit. But you're elaborating, and that's great.
and
You
this is the problem is we live in a day and age where people are busy and there's a lot of information out there. In
yes,
my other company I own, we have to do a lot of marketing research. And what you're seeing is you're seeing all of these, you know how it is. I mean, you're seeing all these different media sources popping up in our nation.
Yes.
CNN was one of the first ones in the 80s that really came out, and they started producing their own news that had their own commentary. And then you start seeing behind that Fox News. And then you start seeing MSNBC. And then now we have OAN, Newsmax, and all these other sources that really target a certain audience. And they just give, and for me, it's hard for me to listen to any of it because if you've ever seen a picture of, or a video of a bird feeding its child, it's just kind of regurgitates it. And that
No.
little bird just eats it. And I feel that people do that. Sometimes they just want someone to chew it up and cough it up for them. And that's why I love research. I love trying to take the time to study and kind of mold these things over. And it takes time.
Well, very good. I do, like I said, I do.
I'm sure I'm pissing off half the people in there.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry, guys.
No. Listen, the point of the interviews are to get different point of views. And if people are getting pissed off because they don't like your point of view or whatever factual stuff you're saying, that's on them. I do this because people, should know different aspects of different things, and it shouldn't always be, one way. And if you're thinking one way, then that's on you. But whatever, it's kind of childish, but I am getting a kick out of it. But listen, it's my channel. If I lose any subscribers, fuck them. It is what it is. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. I never try to purposely piss people off, but at the end of the day, I just want people to think and come to their own conclusions. And we live in a day and age where it's become tribal, right? If
Yes.
you don't agree with me, you're my enemy.
Yes.
And I've got neighbors up and down my street with all kind of political leanings. They all have their signs out, and it's easy to fall into the trap. And our mind is very lazy. Our mind just goes to, we don't like to think things through, and it's easy to just look at somebody and judge them. But I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why they believe that.
All right.
And when I sit down and have a beer out in their front lawn and listen to them, it's usually for the reasons I didn't assume. They may say, well, I went with this political leaning because. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that.
Right.
I respect you. But that's the problem, is that we now live in a day and age where, people are getting extremely angry at each other just because of their ideologies.
You know what? It's funny because you have, and I'm gonna take it here real quick, and we'll back out of it. Danny, thank you for the donation. You got people, for example, who, and I'm not a Black Lives Matter fan, but there are people out there who believe in it for whatever reason. And so if somebody walks down the street and sees a BLM sign, they're like, oh my God, he's an asshole. And instead of like sitting there and trying to understand why, BLM people are the way they are, there's one side of you, if you actually talk to them, you go, that makes sense. There's another side of you that's going, that shit made no sense, But
Yeah.
you have to be able to decipher the information. And like you just said, we don't do that anymore. We're lazy. We go off of emotions. We don't.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I tell people all the time, I'll listen. Listen, I used to try to, when I was a kid, I used to try to understand the Ku Klux Klan. And I used to try to understand the Aryan Nation. And I would watch videos on these guys to understand what their thinking was. Because if you can understand what their thinking is, you can break through to some people. Not everyone,
Right.
but you can break through to some people, right? And so I understand why the Aryan Nation is the way they is, and I understand why the Ku Klux Klan are the way they are. Yes, in some aspects, in a lot of aspects, they are assholes. But when you listen to the individual stories of some of these guys, you're like, holy shit. And now, once you understand that, to not convert them, but to talk to them and try to have them understand your side can be a little easier. But if you both go at it hating each other, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, it's geez, I mean, I've lived enough and seen enough, traveled enough to know that everybody's at the end of the day just trying to do the same thing. They're just trying to take care of themselves and their family.
Right.
And it's easy to get radicalized and get caught up in, and we're starting to see radicalization in our nation. And again, to your first original question, when we started this conversation about Nashville, that's what scares me the most in our country right now. Are we going to see more radicalization? And, will we stop the conversation? And it's now just, I hate you because.
Right.
I mean, I grew up in the South, and I was taught to hate people of certain skin colors. It was just part of our culture. Is it excusable? No, it was not. And over time, I had to learn, and I realized one day that, oh my gosh, This is just some bias that is wrong. And I started listening and getting to know people of different color and listening. And it was just a simple, I don't know. It just took knowledge and it took time and listening and learning. But you can change. And so that's what I never, the point I'm trying to make is I hate jumping to extremes. I've seen enough of it in my own life, and it rarely ends well.
No, and you are absolutely right about that. So switching gears or switching
I'm
back
sorry,
to
man. We just went really deep.
no, but listen,
I'm sure my subscriber count on my channel might taking a hit on this.
well, you know, it's funny, right? So once I watched a couple of videos, and then I spoke to you for all of 5 minutes before we went on, and I could tell that talking to you is going to lead to other places, which is great. I I like the different tones each person I interview brings, and this is your tone, and I think it's great, right? I'm not really paying attention to the chat when it comes to certain comments people are making. I'm like, fuck it, whatever. If they're gonna be pissed off about it, who gives a shit? I can't, we can't base our lives off of pleasing everyone. I'm not a people pleaser. Everyone who follows me knows this, right? I'm not a people pleaser. I can piss you off in one video and make you like me in the next. Not make you, but have you understand me in the next. So that is what it is. But other than that, man, I'm enjoying this shit. So, listen, a prepper question now because we're going to swing back into prepping. What made you, or what inspired you to start a YouTube channel?
Yeah, again, I'm not making this up. Literally, when I first, watched the show Doomsday Prepper, I literally went on to, and again, I saw you and several other people went to YouTube, and I, the Urban Prepper, I found him, and because a lot of the prepper channels I saw at that time were targeting kind of more of the country, the rural areas, um, you know, people that were, out on the land and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I appreciate what they're doing, but I don't see a lot that specifically relates to my environment, the city, the urban environment. I mean, again, the urban prepper was out there, but I was like, okay, how do you set up a house in suburbia that allows you to, survive if there was a grid down situation? I live in earthquake territory. We're constantly being warned, you got to prepare out here. This is not, just some, like you're radicalized prepper group or something like that. It's just like just real practical, need to get ready. So I just started studying, and my heart is to teach, and I just found the channel, or started finding other channels, and I really wanted to bring my own style, my own approach to YouTube, and that's kind of was the origin story, so to speak. That was I just really saw the opportunity, and I started putting up a few videos, and I just got lucky. I won the lottery on the logarithm. I was talking to Nate about this, Canadian prepper, and
Right.
I did a handful of videos, and I mean, I had like 4 or 5 thousand subscribers off 5 videos. I was shocked, and it just kept growing from there. And so I just got lucky, I guess, the timing, and now everything that's happened this year, the channel has gone up about 50%. People are really looking for information.
Well, yeah, I noticed a lot of channels have skyrocketed this year. Like you said, because of everything that's going on, I think next year is going to be a bit of a doozy. And I think that's why I'm trying to be more prepper based. I have one on a political tangent this year. I guess because everything that's going on, but I'm gonna do the political bullshit, but I'm also gonna go back into prepping. I think a lot of us, I'm watching channels like TJ Preps and Prepper Now, the other channels that I actually watch, they're going back into prepping as well. Prep and Nurse is another one. He's going back into prep. So everyone's is like, you know what?
Yeah.
The political climate is not going to change. Yes, we can definitely complain about it and talk about it, but we need to bring it back to prepping because I
Right.
think it's going to take that for us to get through and not griping about Kamala Harris and Biden. Though I'm definitely going to gripe about those two assholes. Nonetheless, it's not going to solve our immediate problem. I think the solving immediate problem is us on YouTube.
Absolutely, and that's you hit the nail on the head. And it's funny because you and other people I'm listening to are we're all feeling the same thing. This year, I found myself. I hate to use the word kind of chasing the headlines, but how it was every day this year. There was something that's like, well, geez, we got to talk about that, how to prepare for that, what to do,
Right.
and you start. again, I almost felt like an ambulance chaser sometimes. I was like, God, this is happening. I want my community to know about it. And I was having to create content for that. And as I went back and looked at the material for this year, some of the videos, I feel like I kind of strayed off the primary foundation of the channel
Right.
is the practical aspects of prepping. So I'm gonna, again, I'm gonna pivot this coming year to really go back to the foundations and to the basics.
Mm.
And I'm not sure what that's gonna look like, but that's my heart right now because I know at the end of the day, if it's Kamala and Biden this coming year, I can't live my life reactionary to who's in office. I've got to learn how to, take my own responsibility and, take charge of my own life is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And it's easy to say, well, this person's in office, so it's going to be hard. But I mean, to your point, I really feel the responsibility is on us to get ready for whatever that may be. And that's what I'm going to focus on this year.
Well, yeah, that was my plan as well. Next year, come 2020. So I'm trying to get out all my gripes right now. Because come 2021, January 1st, I'm gonna behave myself a little bit, not much, but and I notice when I do prepping videos, I curse way less when I talk about prepping versus a subject. When I talk about a subject, I'm fucking all over the place. But so
Yeah.
let's see where we go. Where we're gonna go with this now. Um, what is your biggest fear within prepping?
Yeah, whenever I used to first start meeting other preppers in the YouTube space, and I'll have to ask you the same question in just a second, but I always used to ask like Nate, Cliff, the urban preppers, Canadian prepper, Amber, the prepper princess, that was always my first question as I get to know him is, what is it that caused you to get into prepping? What's your concern? For me, again, I live in Southern California, and the likelihood of a big one we're constantly being warned. If you go down our freeways, they've got billboards dedicated to getting, a plan ready. They've got the picture from the Zombieland movie with the cast, and off to the side, because they're trying to make it like, relatable.
Right.
Oh, it's in Hollywood, so ha ha ha. But yet, yeah, have a plan. And so they'll have a website where you can go and learn how to get survival, things and prepared. I took the course through the FEMA program a few years ago. The shoot, what's the name of it? Totally blanking. But where they teach you, if cert training. I did that, and again, they really warned us in the class. Look, it's when this one hits in our area in Southern California, all bets are off for 2 weeks at a minimum. That's going to be your best case scenario. So get ready. So all that to say, that's what started me on the whole process. But again, where I am today, I feel like there's been an evolution over time over the last 4 years. My maturity and my thinking on and looking at what's happening, on the world stage and the national level. We've got some things that are going to be coming down the pipe, and I try not to steer the channel toward fear porn, but I want people to be alert at what's happening. And so I don't know. I think the thing that kind of concerns me the most at this moment is the events of this year and what's probably going to play out next year. I think it's going to be kind of the initial set of dominoes that are going to begin to tip in our nation, in a world for that matter, of economic hardships at levels we may not have seen. The dollar is being devalued very rapidly by the aggressive printing. If we lose our reserve currency status, which is becoming more and more of a likely, possibility,
Right.
I think we're going to see some challenges financially we've never seen at least in this generation. So all that to say, that's kind of the direction I'm steering right now, is preparing for that. And, I'll probably be talking about crypto and other alternative currencies on the channel, but if the dollar does take a nosedive, that to me could be the beginning of some major issues.
Now, what do you think? And this is pure speculation, right? And guessing, rather, not speculation, guessing. What do you think is going to unfold next year? Or how bad do you think next year is going to be in comparison to this year?
Yeah, I mean, the question is how bad in what way? Again, where I live, a lot of local businesses have been demolished. There's a lot of places you're not going to see come back. People have lost life savings. People have invested heavily. They've lost it all. And yet you're still seeing large corporations and businesses, operate with impunity. And geez, I mean, it's really becoming stacked against the small person, right?
Right.
And you're seeing corporations grow at levels not seen prior. And so for next year, until we get this behind us and people feel comfortable getting out and continuing on with life, it's just going to continue to drag the economy, obviously, with it. And the frustrating thing is when you look at Wall Street versus Main Street, Wall Street just continues to grow, grow, and grow, but the everyday person is losing tremendously. So I don't know. I think if I would have to, if I was at the casino table and I had to put put my bets down right now, I'm looking more at the ramifications of economic instability and damage and the devaluation of the dollar and what that implies to our nation. And, I think people need to learn to get ready over the next 5 to 10 years, because I think we're just going to see a slow digression over the next several years. Some people, their timeline is much more aggressive, but that's what I'm preparing for and what I anticipate next year.
Well, yeah, that's you're not the first person to say that. I not that I follow, but I was watching this financial dude. I don't know, some fucking guy was talking about next year. We're going to start seeing, like you just said, the dollar drop, and he was so adamant about it. I'm like, well, listen, he was guessing too, and all I could sit there and say was, hey, we got to wait and see. But it was nice, not nice. It was interesting to hear a guy who's been doing this for like 40 years. He's been in the financial industry, sorry, and he worked on Wall Street, and he's worked in many different financial offices, and he was saying that he doesn't like where this is going, and then he mentioned our us giving the stimulus checks and keep giving the stimulus check and keep and printing money. And he says, where is this going to go? He says it's not going to be good. So I was just like, all right. Um, I don't see, I see what he's seeing, because now that he said it, I'm like, I'm paying closer attention. But up until him, I wouldn't have thought anyway. So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's important to study this because, again, whoever your financial, I mean, everybody's going to find somebody interesting to listen to. The one that I most relate to and connect to, and I've got all his books sitting behind me. I've pretty much bought them all this year and gone through them. Is Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes.
Yeah, he his I. And I'm going to release a video tomorrow morning discussing specifically this issue and what people need to do to get ready. But his views have changed my financial understanding radically. His books, he constantly talks about becoming financially literate. And I think, to your point, people need to, and I don't want to give away the whole video I'm doing tomorrow, but that's kind of the conclusion, is that people need to become financially literate for what's coming next.
Right.
Things are going to change, and it's going to be hard for a lot of people that aren't flexible enough to change and make moves. And that's why I love the prepper community, is there's always a mindset of trying to stay ahead
Right.
and trying to prepare for what's coming next.
Right. And it's funny that that author, I saw a post on Instagram, and he was like, you want to understand finances and change your life financially. He says, go to Google, type in the glossary, financial glossary index or something like that.
Mhm.
And he says, start from A and work your way down to Z.
Mhm.
So you'll have a better understanding of finances through and through in the stock market. And I was like, holy shit. So nonetheless, I started like the other day, and I forgot what word I was on. And I was like, nope. Like it was just, it, you learn the one word, but then it leads you into other things, because I'm not financially savvy. So I have to actually like read one word, read a sentence. I don't understand another word in that. I got to look at that. So it's helping, but it's slow going. I wish I would have did this shit when I was younger. My brain was more flexible or faster.
How old are you right now? You're not old.
I'm 43. I feel old.
Oh, come on, man. I'm 45.
You're only 2 years older than me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just it's just
Never give up. It's never too late.
no,
I've
no,
learned.
you're right. But it's like Randy just said. He says you eliminate your debt, and that's what I'm looking to do. Eliminate all my debt and make life easier, if you will.
Yeah.
So let's see where we at. All right,
So
we
let me
are
ask
at
you this before we move on, though. What is it that keeps you, I hate to use the word keep you awake, but what is it that, I don't know, got you into prepping, or what is your concern right now?
well. What got me into prepping and my concerns are like two different things. So when I got into prepping, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago, um, it was because of a book called 1 Second After.
Oh, yeah. It's
Right?
amazing. That's one of my probably all-time favorite prepper fiction books, easily.
They need to make it into a movie.
Right.
If they can make us Mall Cop 2, they can give us a fucking good movie called 1 Second After. Just saying. Right? So Now I'm more concerned about the financial collapse. It's something a little more real. I mean, listen, the EMP is very real, but I'm looking, at a financial collapse that if it mimics the Great Depression, we're screwed because we have double the amount of people that we can account for, and not to mention those that are not accounted for. We have a financial system that's going to crash worse than the Great Depression in 1929. The value of everything is higher now. So it would be what one guy said, uh, catastrophic if we have a Great Depression now. And I think that's why they keep pumping money into, or rather, pumping blood into a dead horse, because they're trying to keep it alive. But once it collapses, it's done. And
Yeah.
I'm more worried about that.
Well, I'm not, again, I hate to use the word you should be worried about when I talk to my community, but if there was anything that the more I study, and I would say if there's one thing you need to be concerned about, at least study and get an education on, it's our financial monetary system,
Right.
the way it's set up, the way it works. And again, you don't have to spend tons of time, but if you can get a handful of books, again, Rich Dad Poor Dad was an eye opener for me. How to become, his books on financial literacy, all these, Unfair Advantage is one of his books, and the Cash Flow Quadrant. And once I got those and I started reading them again over and over and over, oh my God, it's like when the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh shoot, the light bulb went off for me last summer in 2019. I'm not making this up. I almost had a heart attack because I was so, it just woke me up so much and it worked me up so much. And I ended up in the hospital. I thought I was having I couldn't, it stressed me out so bad.
Really?
Because at that time, I was kind of trapped in a financial decision I made. And once you read the book and you begin to have that, that epiphany, I had a big, beautiful house, had kind of everything on the surface. It looked like everything was perfect. But underneath, I was tied down financially. And so turned to my wife and I said, babe, we got to make some major changes. And we dumped everything and it freaked her out. She thought I think she thought I was having some kind of a panic attack or some kind of a mental episode. It
Right.
really scared her badly. It was the best decision we ever made. We dumped the house, moved kind of back to suburbia, and I've sat down and rethought my whole view on finances. And so my encouragement is stay on that path you're on right now. And this is what I'm going to tell my community in my video tomorrow. Continue to learn. I'm not a financial advisor. Now, I'm not going to say, hey, go buy precious metal or crypto. All those things, I think once you start learning, you see the value of them. But the one thing that you can't take away, and we always say this in our community, is get knowledge. If you can become financially literate and gain knowledge, it changes everything.
Big time. What I and you're right about that. I know a lot of people. Me personally, when I tell people about money, I'm like, make sure you buy enough, like food and water. That's where I try to go with that. Because like
Exactly.
some people here, I mean, for our lives right now, understanding finances is great because it can set you up for the future. It can set your kids up, so on and so forth. But right now, what we're looking at, I tell people, forget Bitcoin, forget gold and silver. I mean, if you can afford it, fine. But I'd rather people in the community buy food, 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 water, water,
Absolutely.
water, seeds if you have somewhere to garden, and learn how to do different things with your food, right? Like canning, which I've been saying for the last 3 months. I'm going to get to. I cut out a day in January 5th or 6th that I'm gonna just start canning shit. But learn things like that, right? Learn how to dehydrate your food. Buy a freeze dryer if you can and you can afford it, and do that as well. Learn how to do that. I think we need to start packing it away because it's what's coming. What I think is coming. Sorry, it's going to really hurt if it comes to fruition. I hope we just don't get there ever.
Yeah, well, you and I both.
Yeah. So, being that being that you're on YouTube and you've been prepping for a while, you said, what were your mistakes with prepping, and what were your mistakes being a YouTube prepper?
Yeah, I mean, mistakes is when you start out, you really start chasing the gear. Oh, what cool bug out bag or EDC and what knife, and you start really, buying junk really that makes little to no difference
Right.
in the long run. And I think you and I we actually have the same bug out bag at the I always mispronounce it, Elbler stock.
Yes. I will
Yeah,
stop.
Yeah, how do you pronounce it? I have the same one as you. I actually, yeah, it's a great bag. But yeah, I really pursued that at the beginning, thinking that was kind of the end all.
Right.
And it really comes down to, if you want to do a shout out, by the way, go ahead. I know you got a super chat there.
Irish Rebel, thank you for the donation. Appreciate that, man.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Irish. No, but the mistakes that was, I just prioritized incorrectly at the beginning.
Right.
And as you said a second ago, you know, Bitcoin, gold, all these things, those are kind of it's like playing basketball and you're like doing the slam dunks and all the advanced stuff.
Right.
Start with the foundation, learn how to dribble, get your food and water, start with the basics. It always starts with that. I'm sorry, by the way, you can
No, you can
get
say
a new
it.
survival living, I'm sorry, living, survival living. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. Um, no, it's you prioritize things incorrectly, and that's where I want to pivot my channel next year is to go back, work on the foundations, and produce high quality videos, taking people step by step by step. Because Roxanne, thanks another again for that super chat. And that's what I want to prioritize with the channel this coming year. So to your second question, what are the mistakes I made with the YouTube channel? I don't know. I mean, it was a good year this year, saw a lot of growth, but it was hard because again, you felt like you were chasing every week something crazy happening. I felt like I was having to produce content to talk to my community about that. But if I have a time machine, I would probably go back this year and really focus on what I'm trying to do next year is rebuild and give a lot of good information. I know, for example, Bear Nation or whatever, Bear Independent. I know he does some introductory courses, which I think were really great. And that's really what I want to focus on next year is go after the foundations. And again, thanks, Tactical Gary. Thank you very much for that super chat. So anyway, and you know how it is. I mean, it's hard producing, these videos all the time. It takes up a lot of time. And that's been a challenge, putting in all the time that I'd love to spend more on my own preps, but I really want to support the channel and the community and give back. And, it's hard because there's that balance of needing to do your own preps versus, a video could take 15 hours to do, from start to finish. I know you, man, you're more on the spot. You're more raw. You do your kind of, hey, this is me talking, and they're great. But for me, I get so anal and I just want to make everything perfect. A video from start to finish can take, it can take a lot of time. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at on that. How about you?
What, with YouTube?
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like you made mistakes or are there things you would do differently?
You know what? I don't, as of right now, I don't think I made any mistakes. No, let me walk that back. The mistakes I made led me to here, right? So I don't think I would change much. Maybe the one thing that I'm starting to do now, because I was getting my balls broken by this guy. His name is EF something. He's a troll, but nonetheless, you can even learn shit from trolls. And I do more in-depth research now whenever I talk about something. So I get my information from more than one source, so that it's not like you get it from one source. Let's say the Star, right, or the Sunshine News. You get it from there, and usually they're like a fear-mongering, media source. So you try not to get it from there. You try to get it from multiple sources. Even if you're going to CNN, you should also get it from CNN, Fox News, and let's say your local channel, right? And that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to get more sources and more concrete information than just hearing one person say it and then rattle off. I did that once or twice, and it bit me in the ass. So I said, you know what? Never again. And so that was
Yeah.
part of my mistakes.
And that's the thing we talked about earlier is, the news outlets are becoming less about news and more about speaking to people's, how should I say it, their fears, and it twists sometimes the information to fit that narrative.
Right.
And so that's why I try to be very careful what sources I refer to. But I go across but I know there are extreme sources and I try to stay off those. And I try to find the ones that are in the middle. A lot of times they're not popular because they don't express or push a narrative, and that upsets people. So yeah, but I feel you. You like you said, you can learn from the trolls. Sometimes I get really pissed, but I try to say, okay, what is there any truth to that? And
Right.
if so, what can I implement? Before I came on, I had somebody who was like, I hate your videos, and I don't get any useful information, and the sensible prepper is better. And it really upset me. Still to this day, stuff like that gets under my skin. But I'm
Really?
like, okay, just let it go. What is it, that maybe I don't know. What can I learn? So
Yeah.
I
When
try.
people say that to me, I'm like, Well, go to his fucking channel and watch him. Leave me the fuck alone. It's as simple as that. And then, and here's the crazy shit. Believe it or not, when people trolls, they say shit like that to you. They say it to get under your skin, right?
Yeah,
And they also say it like they're gonna get a reaction out of me. And a lot of the times, it's like, all right, man, just leave.
yeah.
It's I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. I don't care. I knew when I stepped into this arena, the YouTube arena, I was gonna get trolled eventually. And when you
Sure.
get trolled, you made it. That's
Somebody just said that in the comments. Yeah, you've arrived. Yeah.
yeah, right. So you made it once you get in
Yeah.
trouble, so it's fine. I mean, listen, some of the trolling I see on other YouTube channels I don't like, but that's me because I
Mm.
know some of the people can't handle it the way I can, and so I know it's
Yeah.
going to bother them. But the other side of that coin is it also helps you grow as a person, meaning like so now I don't look at a troll and want to snap their necks. I just look at them and go, all right, I'll whatever. Um, I'll go back at them with like some nasty comment, and then usually they leave me alone. Or
Yeah.
the other thing is I let it go, and then usually when they let it go, they stop because they're like, oh, he's not paying me attention, like on here.
Yeah. I
But
used to do that too. I used to always find a way to turn it around and make a joke on their mom somehow. But I was like, I
that's
don't
a
know. I don't know who's on the other end of that screen. I don't know if I mean, you don't know who's out there. So, like you said, I let it go and move on. But you have to have thick skin on this. If you're on YouTube.
big time, and that's why I tell when people ask me about starting a channel, I'm like, whatever you do,
Have thick
have
skin.
a thick skin and let some of the shit go.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no limit to trolls. So they can say and do whatever the hell they want. And you got to remember, a lot of them, 99% of them are cowards,
Hmm.
right? And so once you understand that, there's nothing they can say that's going to piss me off. I mean, they can go as far as, my mother, my kids, the wife, friends. I'm like, all right, man, you're hitting the basic troll checklist and it doesn't work, you know? So I tell people all the time, just ignore them, man. If they'll die or whatever,
Well, the best feature of YouTube is the you can permanently delete somebody off your channel, and
I've seen that. I've yet to use it. So
really,
yeah.
I'm sure
No,
if I went, yeah,
you know what? I think some of my what you call moderators have used it because I've
okay,
gone into it and I've seen like 12 names. I'm like, I didn't ban 12 people. Then
yeah,
I ask around. They're like, yeah, I put him there because he said this. I'm like, all right. My moderators, yeah, I let them do what they do.
yeah,
But me personally, I wouldn't ban anybody.
yeah.
Alarua? Oh, God. If I'm messing your name up, I'm sorry. Renee, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Uh, I hate screwing people's name up. But yeah, listen, it is what it is. I don't know. Here's the other thing too. Uh, I remember watching this girl. She was a young girl. I guess she was 18, but she was massively disfigured. And I think she was born that way. Whatever. She tackles trolls just by ignoring them, and she's like, "There's nothing they can say that I don't know." And
Yeah.
once I heard her say that, I was like, "She's letting it go. There's no reason for us to be harping on it."
Mm.
And building trolls' egos because that's what you do once you get into it. They go to bed
Yeah,
smiling once they know they pissed you off.
right.
They won.
Yeah, the YouTube comment section is probably one of the most, one of the most, just one of the worst environments. I mean, it's a dumpster fire half the time. Over the years, I've kind of pruned some of the comments out, but I've just like you said, I had to let it go because that's what feeds a troll,
Right.
is when you give in and you respond.
Yeah, it makes them grow. It's like they feel fucking empowering because they did it, and when they do it to women, that's a different ballgame. When they do it to me or
Yeah,
men, it's fine. But when they do it to women, you know, there's a line. And now obviously they're gonna call women what they're gonna call them. When they start doxing them and shit like that, that's bullshit. Then something should be done. But outside of that, I don't ever. I really get bothered by it. At least
yeah, I
with
feel
me, I don't get bothered. With other people, I might, but that's just me.
feel bad for the female prepper or just females on YouTube in general. It's a different ball game for them.
Oh hell yeah! It's like night and day. I'll
Yeah,
never compare my name calling to the shit that I'm told. that they're said. You know, like things that are said to them. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like some of the shit they say to these women. It's like, you know, some of the chicks on here going like, you know what? That was the sexiest thing I ever heard. Let me meet you. None of them are ever going to say that. You know, so it's just insane how these guys think. Michael, thank you for the donation, man. I appreciate it. Uh, so back to prepping bullshit. What are your and I hate to put you on the spot with this because usually when I ask this question, guys are like, "Fuck, I can't think of it," but I'm gonna do
Yeah.
it anyway. What are your favorite prepper books?
Favorite prepper books. I've got a lot of them. There's one right here that I'm going to really dig into over the break. I'm on the break, but I'm going to really sit down. I think this author does an amazing job. Is the Prepper's Blueprint.
Oh, been
Um,
wanting to get that one.
yeah, I've got a whole cabinet full of prepper books. Some of them are great, some of them not so much. You know, this is it's about as solid as it gets. I mean, it's extremely detailed, and if you wanted to just a step by step, you know, you want to go at it, this is probably a good starting point.
Very
Um,
good.
yeah, so
Look
I've
at
got
that.
all the other books, from like the medical survival handbook from Dr. Joe and Nurse Amy.
All right.
I've got a lot of other books. Prepper fiction is great, but it's the 1 Second After series. Those three books, those are easily the best fiction I've seen. But there's a lot of other books that wouldn't be classified as typical prepper books that I have. Things like raising animals, gardening, all these things that are going to be really important in the years to come, developing that sense of self-sustaining, ability. And what to me, for what I've really been enjoying here lately is books on finances, because again, that is probably my biggest concern is what's coming next in the financial sector. And so I've got a stack of books that I go through every night, just learning, how to prepare my finances. That's so those aren't technically classified as prepper books, but
All
that's
right.
that's what I've been consuming.
Well, very good. Missy, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, she said so. Someone that lives in an apartment. Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to do more of those. I've done a handful of apartment books this or videos this year, excuse me, and I'll be again. I just want to keep focusing on that, the basics, things like that are going to be really important.
Well, here's a question for you. How come you haven't written a book? That's a question I want to ask Urban Prepper as well, because you guys are very, very knowledgeable in the things you know. So, how come you haven't written a book yet?
It's funny you mention that because before you and I started this conversation, before it was you and I were talking for the 5 minutes before we started this video, you and I were talking about, kind of how we treat our channel, our plans, and that to me is, you know, I want to invest heavily in this channel next year. I want to really take. I've had sponsors, the revenue that comes from YouTube and other things. I want to reinvest it this year heavily into the channel. And thanks, by the way, I'm sorry, NCCO Preps. Thank you for that super chat. Um, I really want to go after creating strong, solid content. I'm going to probably hire on, a writer to help create book to do research, and I think it will come in time. But there's a lot out there, again, like the Prepper Blueprint. So if I do this, I really want to make sure it's just well written. It's not surface level, because I could take a lot of my old, scripts that I created and just slam them in a book. But I want it to be a really professionally done, and I think within a year's time I'll have that.
Very good. Very good. All right, guys, we are at the 1 hour mark or 1 hour and 3 minute mark. Do me a favor, for those of you that are still in here, hit the thumbs up if you haven't already, or hit the thumbs down if you're a troll. You choose. It's up to you. And now we're going to enter the question portion from you guys. So if when you ask the questions, please type in all caps so I can see them. I am not going to get to all the questions, so know that right now. I don't want to hear a pissy email later, or how I don't like you or I'm avoiding you. I can't read them all, guys. So let's start with the questions. Thank you. There's a troll here. Nice. Angry, angry city prepping troll. But listen, and that's the thing. This chat, man, it's like the Wild West in here. It's like the
Oh, I know.
yeah,
Do you have a moderator, or is it just you?
yeah. There's a moderator. One of my moderators is on. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, he's handling it. But
Faithful
like,
preppers. Go ahead.
No, yeah, Prepper Now is my
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. I need to get one of those. I've wanted to do more hangouts, but I've wanted to get a moderator because it can come in fast as the questions that come in.
yeah.
Um, and
Uh,
by the way, Faithful Prepper, I've seen her on a few of the chats that I've been on. She asked how long I've been homeschooling. And by the way, thanks MD Hen Dog for the super chat. Do me a favor, do yourself a favor.
if it's yourself. Right.
So to her question, how long have I been homeschooling? My wife, we started homeschooling when our kids got into kindergarten. My wife, she graduated from UCLA with a degree in applied mathematics, and she taught her way through college. That's how she paid. So we decided to go with the homeschooling approach because we just really wanted to educate at the level that we wanted to. It wasn't for any particular reason other than we just really see the value. And there was a TED talk my wife saw that did a phenomenal job talking about homeschooling and the value. And it's hard. It is the hardest thing we've ever done. And my wife, she's a rock star. But yeah, we've been homeschooling. So when everything hit back in March, it didn't really feel that hard for us because we were already homeschooling and I work from home. So it's been pretty an easy transition. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, very good. Um, Prepper Lane, thank you for the donation. We appreciate it. Someone was asking this question: how much salt should? And guys, by the way, the questions are for the guest, not for me. So yeah, please don't. It's not about me; it's about him. This question's to you: how much salt should be stored? I would say all of it, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can, squeeze in. I mean, there's a lot of uses for salt. One of the fiction books, again, talking about prepper fiction that we were talking a second ago. There was one that was written in the 50s, and totally blanking on the title. I've got it and I've read it, but it was interesting because the storyline there was a nuclear explosion, and the people had to learn how to survive, and that was one thing they realized they didn't have was salt, and the value of preservation and other things that have been lost on our modern day and age, where hanging up meat, salting it, preserving it, smoking it, doing all these things. So yeah. Let's see. OBAM F spike salt used will be more valuable than gold. I think in a true grid down situation and for an extended period of time, salt would be potentially a trading item. Well, yeah, I know it would. I mean, it would be huge. So
Right.
it's cheap. I would load up on it.
So here's another question, because I have such a hate for this item. Um, do you like spam? Or Lone Star Survivalist?
Yeah, I've got it. I mean, I eat it from time to time. But if you had to eat it all the time, I think it would be in moderation, right? I know in Hawaii that's a big, almost like an etiquette. It's a big dish there. So
Yeah, really.
I'm cool with it.
See, guys, he likes spam.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it. I fucking hate it. Anyway, uh, here's another one by Sean Fuhr. If I'm saying it right. I hope I'm saying it right. Best assortment for first aid supplies.
Best assortment?
Yeah.
What is it? What do they mean? Best assortment for first aid supplies? I mean, like
I guess the gear you
items to
need.
put in.
Right, like
Oh yeah, I
four
mean,
by fours, rolls.
yeah, I mean the typical things. Again, your typical first aid kit that you're going to get at the store is going to be more for your basics. The insect bites, tweezers, band-aids, Neosporin, antiseptic, all these things, all great, will be necessary. But what I think a lot of people overlook is things like a tourniquet. I mean, you work in, again, you're, correct me if I'm so sorry, I don't know your history as well as I should, but you're a fireman, right? I mean,
Yes.
okay, so you work with EMTs and such. When I took the courses I did through CERT, I mean, that was one of the things they pointed out. A lot of people, assume they wouldn't need something like a tourniquet, but if things really went sideways, you get a major laceration and you start, start losing blood rapidly, things like that.
Right.
So, things like gauzes, I mean, even Israeli bandages. But my point being is that apart from the typical things that you would get, start looking for the bigger items, definitely. So, all right, the Canadian Prepper jumped in.
Canadian Preppers here.
New York and LA, George Soros.
It's just,
He's always got to come in and be.
look,
You're trolling us, Nate. You're trolling us.
yeah, right. He's asking you, what is your favorite prepping movie?
Favorite prepping movie? Geez, that's a hard one to answer. The Road was a really tough one to watch with what's his name? Shoot, from Lord of the Ring movies.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah. excellent actor. But one of the movies that I always love, my wife's like, please don't make me watch this, is The Day After Tomorrow. That was that one from like 10 years ago. Where they have the Arctic. Everything
Yes.
freezes out.
Yeah. Right. Right.
It is to a degree a prepper movie, but it's so extreme fiction. I enjoy it. It's fun. Red Dawn. Oh yeah, Jack Springs said Red Dawn, of course, the original back in the '80s. Heck yeah.
Yeah. Red Dawn's a classic. It's an American.
Wolverines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I met someone who said they didn't like Red Dawn. I'm like, well, that makes you a communist. So thank you.
Well, true story. I was in 2001. I lived in LA and I had a roommate from Kyrgyzstan, which was part of the former Soviet Republic.
Right.
And we made him sit down and watch Red Dawn with us. And oh my gosh, he was so angry. He was like, "Oh, you Americans and your your propaganda movies," but it's fun to watch with.
Yeah, nice watching, like, pissed them off. Someone said The Stand. I know there's a remake on The Stand right now. I'm curious to see where that one goes.
Yeah, I never saw the original show, but it is probably one of my favorite Stephen King books of all time. And
Well,
that's an excellent. I'm glad they brought that up. I've reread that several times, and actually, it's
really,
interesting. That is one of his books he hates the most that he wrote,
really,
because people will come up to him and they'll start asking him about the characters from the book because he writes it in such a way that you really get drawn into those characters.
really.
Have you ever read it?
No, because I looked at the book and I was like, nope. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
have.
about 1,000 pages. It's
Yeah,
up
yeah,
there, but
exactly.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
I'm older
excellent.
now. I think I can handle it. But when it came out, I was a kid. Well, we were around the same age, right? We were kids when it came out. But I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
saying, "There's no way I'm reading this book."
Yeah.
Um,
No, in high school, I started getting into it and The Stand. It
okay,
really messed up my head. I shouldn't have been allowed to read those.
those were. My mother read those books. She loved The Stand. She thought The Stand was phenomenal.
It is
Uh,
excellent book. Yeah.
but I try to do the cliff notes and watch the movie, and she watched it and she was like, it's nowhere near, because to make a
Yeah.
movie, it would have had to been almost, she said, 3 to 4 parts, and then
Yeah.
you're not even scratching the surface.
Yeah. That's why I don't like watching a lot of shows like even, Game of Thrones, because after reading the book, when you watch it, it's like, wow, they missed, 90% of it. So,
Really.
yeah. Yeah.
And he did like 6 seasons. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's,
I never watched it.
neither did I, but I read the books. They got worse each as they went along. But yeah, your moderator said Captain Trip. That was one of the main. A disease basically gets out of a lab in, I believe, Flagstaff, if I'm remembering correctly, and it
In The
starts
Stand.
spreading. Yeah, on the stand,
Yes.
and has like a 99% mortality rate. And
Right.
so it just goes through and it wipes out. And so you have good versus evil pop up, and they have to fight it out. Basically, it's a good storyline.
Right. Yeah, like I said, when I saw the when they come out in the 90s, right? The mid 90s when they had the show. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, this is pretty cool. And when my mother was like pretty much eviscerating the movie, if you will,
yeah.
I was like, I guess I'll read the book when I'm 40. When I'm 43 and I'm thinking about reading it, so I guess I cursed myself.
I'll
Uh,
get to it.
yeah, it'll take me 8 months, but I'll get to it. Someone said Castaway. Castaway is a
Yeah.
survival movie. I wouldn't call it a prepper movie. I mean, I did a prepper movie critique on it, but it's a survival movie more than it is a prepper movie.
All right. Great movie. It always makes me think about taking care of my teeth. And you may or may not be able to see this, but I got braces about 6 months ago because a lot of it came down to prepping. I started having dental issues, and they were like, "Look, if you don't take care of this, it's going to become this," And
Right.
so, yeah, TMJ and other issues that I was already kind of setting myself up for. So, you know, I'm starting to think about health a lot more right now.
No, that's good because I definitely need to make a run to the dentist the next couple weeks just to square everything away, just in case some crazy shit happens and now the dentist is fucking shut down. But whatever. That's neither here or there. So, all right, guys, we're at an hour and 14 minutes. Thank you, Gemini Prepper. I appreciate it. Also, guys, real quick, I'm going to read off a couple of channels. A couple. It's a lot of channels. So channels that I support, and you guys should support them as well. I'm not going to twist anybody's arm. I'm just letting you guys know these are some really good channels that I like. And I actually, believe it or not, with all of these channels, I do watch their videos. I get around to them because there's so many. But we're going to start from the top. City Prepping, as you can see, like and subscribe to his channel, guys. Again, level-headed thinker, open thinker. He's not into the whole fear mongering like a lot of other channels. These channels on here, they're not fear mongers, and they just tell it like it is. So I appreciate it. The Urban Prepper, man, thank you for that. He's in the house too. So Canadian Prepper, Urban Prepper, and you guys had like a trio thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, that was pretty cool.
yeah,
And you guys should check that out on Urban Prepper's channel, right? That's his
yeah.
channel was on, right?
Hmm.
All right, so NY Prepper, Prepper Now, Prepper 101, Prepper 21, CS Prepper, Prepping Outside the Box, Financial Prepper, Be Ready Today, Me Being Cheap, TJ Preps, Prepper Nation, Pinball Preparedness, Magic Prepper. There's a lot of preppers here, guys.
Yeah.
North Shore Preparedness, Grim Survival, Southern Boy Prepper, Alaska Prepper, Prepping for Life, Prepper Nurse 1, Alaskan Ballistic. He's not a prepper channel, he's a gun channel, but he's really good if you're looking for gun information. Hutch Homestead, Prepper Princess, obviously, Prepper Tribe, Faithful Prepper, Autumn Backyard Garden, Southern Prepping Perspective, which is a pretty good channel that you guys should follow. Happy Prepper, Shrimp Zoo, Prepper Nerd, Homestead Oss, which I just found out the other day through, I think, Grim Survival, and Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. Guys, head over to their channels, like and subscribe, give them a watch. All right, and Gray Man Prepping. He has a new channel. I'm sorry, I forgot about you. He's an interesting one. I just discovered him. Not that I discovered him. I just started following him about a week ago. Also, guys, another important message. Do yourself a favor and check a lot of the channels that you subscribe. For whatever reason, YouTube's been unsubscribing a lot of people. And when I break their balls about it, they tell me that a lot of the accounts are dead accounts, whatever the hell that means. So from time to time, check on these channels and make sure that they're make sure you still subscribe to them. Because I was unsubscribed to Buren Hansen, Bull Hansen. And I know I was following him for years, and all of a sudden now I was unsubscribed to him. So keep yourself updated. Guys, and other than that, if you don't have any more questions, we're going to end it. Oh, Survival Lily, I forgot about her. Survival Lily is another channel you guys should definitely watch. She did a video which didn't save my ass, but made my night sleeping outdoors a lot more comfortable.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was it
Nice.
was it was a pretty cool trick or tip
Oh,
rather.
nice.
All right, guys. So other than that, I am going to be doing a video tomorrow on how to spend your $600, your whole $600 riches that you got from the government, because nothing says "fuck you" like $600. But anyway, uh, other than that, guys, we are going to go off the air. Thank you guys for joining us. City Prepping, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I know you're
Yeah.
busy. You don't have to take small channels like me on, but I do
No, no,
appreciate
you're not small, man. I enjoy it. It was such a pleasure to be here. I apologize for taking so long. Like I said, the last several months have been it's just been crazy trying to keep up with everything. And so I know you've been after me, and I apologize for dragging my feet on this. But again, thank you for having me on here. You know, you got a great channel and a great community. So thank you.
Well, thank you again. All right, guys. Good night, everyone.